Hi, I'm Billy.
And I'm Alissa.
I'm the director.
And I'm the producer of a film called It's Quieter in the Twilight.
Please join us for the West Coast premiere at the Newport Beach Film Festival this October.
The Voyager spacecraft will carry the eyes of men farther than they've ever been.
It's a fantastic historical achievement.
Once it went by Neptune, people sort of forgot about Voyager. Where we are now is next to McDonald's.
I don't even know how many people are working on Voyager right now.
Today, we have 12 people that fly 2 spacecraft.
It's hard for me to just see this machine. It's kind of like a part of me.
We'll retire and keep changing. People keep moving that.
It may be a race between how long we as individuals live versus how long the spacecraft can still communicate with us.
Hi guys, my name is Olga Alvertos and I am with the Newport Beach Film Festival. Welcome to The Deep Dive. We are here with Alissa Shapiro and Billy Miossi. Welcome you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Diving right into your documentary, Billy, can you give us a little bit of background into the inspiration behind the film and what the storytelling process looked like?
Sure. I've always, I was a fan of Voyager and this mission that was just kind of going on forever. It was just inspiring in and of itself. But around the 40th anniversary of the mission, there's an article about the tiny dedicated team of engineers who are still flying this mission and who many of whom have been with the project since the 1980s. And to find out that, the greatest feat of human exploration was being conducted and explored by this tiny, aging, dedicated team sitting in this, drab office space, that looked like, could be like an insurance agency almost. That drew me in. Like that was just such an incredible story, just that in and of itself. So that's what drew me in.
I will say, when I started watching the documentary, I did not expect that team to be so small. And there was, there was a line where you guys said, NASA basically forgot about them, which blows my mind because, like you said, it's such an important mission for space exploration.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's the furthest man-made objects and it has breached interstellar space for, so far out that it's hard to comprehend. And you have these brilliant, dedicated team of engineers who are using this outmoded, antiquated technology to fly these spacecraft and keep them going, and the way in which they keep it going and the little decisions they have to make here and there. It's just hard to wrap, my head around. So to be able to sit with them and see how they tick and how they're able to keep our greatest explorers going was just fascinating to me.
Speaking of the Voyager team, the interviews with them seem to be, they are a very significant part of this documentary. What was the process of getting them to talk to you guys and learning about, what was your experience working with them? Yeah,
it took time to really get them to open up, because that was one of the key things is, I wanted this to be a really human story, the humans behind these machines, these Voyager spacecraft. So but getting them to open up, because they weren't used to cameras, they, like the line in the film, that NASA had forgotten about them. And so they weren't used to the limelight and having cameras around. So they were definitely nervous in the beginning. And they're naturally very humble people. So it was a process of, a lot of phone calls with them and getting them to trust me and my intentions with their story. But yeah, so it took time for them to really warm up to the cameras for most of them. I mean, some like Todd, who was very different than the rest and very energetic and,
Like any documentary process, developing that relationship with the subjects is integral to the success of any project. And this project, started 4 years ago at this point. And that relationship has just grown over time. And one of the amazing things about the Voyager team is how close they are. So through, hours and hours and hours of talking off camera and online and just getting to know them, Billy was really able to develop that trust. That, you know, our intention with this film was to share their story, because really believe that these are these unsung heroes of this project. And it was Billy's dedication and ability to open that relationship that makes this film so compelling, to really show those human elements that he described that really propel the mission forward.
Yeah, that leads us into my next question. You mentioned it took 4 years.
Yeah. It you know, from you know, first inspiration, and then, you know, it was a process. I mean, it's JPL. I couldn't just go straight to the engineers and say, hey, can we show up and start filming you guys? We had to go through, you know, the powers that be at JPL. And you know, there are certain restrictions on what we could shoot and how long we could shoot. So, you know, we spread that out over a couple of years in order to capture that whole thing.
One of my favorite parts of the film was the older footage incorporated in with the newer content. What was the process of gaining access to that kind of footage?
Well, a lot of it, I knew going into it, since it's NASA, a lot of that would be public domain. And since I'm such a fan of Voyager to begin with, I knew where to look for a lot of that footage. And then, you know, the other part was going to JPL and saying, you know, can you give me everything you have, you know, because I just, you know, you can't have enough of that stuff. I mean, the more the better. And they were great and very accommodating and giving us access to a lot of that tremendous footage, which was a big part of it. I wanted to be a big part of it, you know, that 80s look, you know, back in the prime mission. So yeah, it was fun to dig through all that footage and put that together.
Billy, how much of the story did you already know when you started the process? And how much of that story unraveled during the reporting process?
I only knew that it was the furthest spacecraft in human history. And I knew it went by the giant outer planets, but I didn't know, you know, that there was a tiny team still operating it, and that most of them, they need this team because they're really the only ones who know this like ancient coding language to fly the mission. I also didn't know that there was, you know, this big like 30-year gap between the end of the prime mission and reaching interstellar space. There was like 30 years of just waiting. You know, they didn't know what was going to happen. And they just, for the sake of exploration, they just waited it out, and thank God they did.
What do you think the future of the Voyager program is?
It's got at least a few more years left. You know, but they don't necessarily know. I mean, as Susie says in the film, you know, it could be 2 years, it could be 5 years. But there's still more to discover. They're still going. They still have life left in them, and they've surprised everyone along the way. So who knows, you know, it could keep surprising us, and I'm sure it will.
And to end on the relatively deep note, what message do you hope that this film is going to convey to the world?
I think this is a story of endurance, but it's also a story of a group of people coming together to, you know, really do the impossible and relying on each other every step of the way in order to continually break history. And I think that that's an incredible message to share with any audience, is this inspiration that, you know, whatever milestone we've achieved can continually be increased, improved, evolved, and Voyager certainly led the way. But behind them are these, you know, 12 engineers who really are these national heroes for leading the way and continuing this mission. You know, really in this, until now, in a fair amount of anonymity. You know, they didn't ask for much, and they solve problems that we don't understand and can't really comprehend in order to understand more about the universe around us. And in the age of, you know, this amazing James Webb Telescope, where we're seeing so much more of the universe. This is a reminder of what's come before to get us to where we are, and how much we can still left to understand. And it's done by these engineers who come from every corner of this earth to work together. It's a story of immigrants. It's a story of personal perseverance on top of the science. And, that is another level of what is so inspiring to us and what we hope to share with our audience.
And before we say goodbye today, is there anything else you guys would like to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say that was one of the greatest discoveries is when we first met with the team, was finding out that they did come from all corners of the earth and different backgrounds, and South Korea and Colombia and Mexico and the Deep South, and they've all come together, this diverse team, to really accomplish something so important for humanity and exploration and discovery, and that to me is truly inspiring.
Those are all my questions. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. No, appreciate your time.
Voyager Eyes 4-3.
4-3 Voyager Eyes.
Yeah, we just had a telemetry outage.
Probably we need to turn cameras off.
It's been really wild. Certain things happened that should have not happened.
The whole system is cooling down.
It's a race against time. If the hydrogen freezes, then the spacecraft starts stumbling. And we lose the spacecraft forever.
Engineers are problem solvers. The tougher the problem, the more they like it.